Hello all, this is Major Ben Bonifat, and today I'm going to be talking to you about managing risk in decision making. Today I'm going to be talking about risk analysis and risk management. I'm going to go over the three types of risk analysis. And for the other two objectives, I'm going to go over different ways to evaluate risk, and those evaluations will guide the creation of courses of action that you can then give to your decision makers. So first up, what is risk? Risk is vulnerability plus threat. It is effective risk management involves making calculated decisions that minimize potential negative impacts. And I'm going to go over certain risk factors to consider. First off, it's not just about safety. We have medical, criminal, terroristic, active shooter, reputational, intellectual, natural, human, corporate governance, cybersecurity, financial, insurance, corrupt practices, legal, project management, and compliance. These are just a few. There are definitely more, but these cover quite a bit. The main point of this list is to ensure that someone is not stuck with the idea that risk is only about safety. It is about all of these different areas and more. So what is risk analysis? Risk analysis is the process of assessing, communicating, and managing the consequences of unfavorable events. Now I'm going to talk about risk analysis methods, starting with discrete, which quantifies the impact of specific outcomes, and probabilistic, which quantifies chance and the impacts of outcomes. Under discrete, we have sensitivity analysis, which is one variable at a time, and scenario analysis, which is multiple variables at a time. Under probabilistic, we have simulations. The big one that people mostly know about and use is Monte Carlo. So first up, we're going to talk about sensitivity analysis, which quantifies the outcome of varying parameters one at a time. It allows you to calculate the most likely estimate for each parameter. It gives you the sum of all most likely estimates. You can only vary one parameter at a time and analyze the effects of that parameter. The benefits: it takes less time and less expertise. It is intuitive and easy to understand. And it is easy to accomplish. The limitations: it can produce very misleading results. It gives impact of change, but it does not give probability of occurrence. So our example here is going to be of 3 different gas stations with 3 different prices, and the price is going to be our variable that is changing. So we have Texaco at $3, Exxon at $3.15, and BP at $3.17. If this is all we have to go on, and we want the cheapest one, we're going to go with Texaco. Now we're going to go into scenario analysis, which is well-defined set of conditions where parameters vary together. In scenario analysis, we can calculate the most likely variable estimates for each scenario. We can sum the most likely element estimates, and you can vary two or more parameters simultaneously and analyze the effects. The benefits are the results are more deliberate and realistic than sensitivity analysis. Scenarios provide several well-defined potential outcomes. For the limitations, there's more data, and it is more resource intensive than sensitivity analysis. It can still produce misleading results if the scenarios are too optimistic or too pessimistic. The scenario analysis still does not provide the probability of occurrence. So diving deeper into our gas scenario, we're going to add in distance from home. We've got 15 miles, 10 miles, and then 2 miles. So with BP being only 2 miles away, that's going to affect our decision because 2 miles is much better than 10 or 15. So when we calculate that all up together, we can see that BP is the best choice with these two variables. Now moving on to Monte Carlo. It is a statistical method to model uncertainty. It randomly generates values for each variable within a defined distribution. It sums variable distributions to produce a cumulative distribution. Then it quantifies the outcomes and the associated probabilities. The benefits: it models potential outcomes and the probability of each outcome. It is the best method to model uncertainty, and it is the most realistic and flexible because it encompasses sensitivity and scenario analysis. For limitations, optimistic distribution bounds can produce misleading results. Simulations require a lot of data. It requires a lot of time, and it is very resource intensive. It also requires a lot of expertise. The analysis is very specialized, and it takes specialized skills. Here in our example, we have all the data from each gas station for a year, and we factor in the distance from home, then we have the overall cost for a year, and that can give us a min, a max, a median, and a mean, which on a limited scale of using the min is going to again point us to BP, but with the simulation we can also look at grouped data and see that the smallest amounts are over here, and the BP data is this group of less cost overall. This is a very broad strokes example with a small data set, but it helps with what is needed for getting into the deeper meat of what's going to happen with these kind of simulations. Here is a summary of the different risk analysis methods. I'm not going to go over them again. I'm just giving you a succinct, summarized view of all of them. To summarize the ideas behind different analysis, I want you to think about each one as a factor of timing. The more time that you have to gather the data, the better decisions can be made. However, time is usually not on our side. We want all the time in the world, and we want to use and provide our leadership with probabilistic simulations. But usually we do not have time or the resources to do that. We only have time for scenario analysis, and even more likely, we only really have time for sensitivity analysis. If you can get the time, request the time, and try to get to the better analysis. And when you do not have the time, ensure your leadership knows the limits of your analysis. All right, now I'm going to talk about risk management. Risk management is a decision-making process to systematically evaluate possible courses of action, identify risks and benefits, and determine the best mitigation measures. It allows you to make calculated risk decisions. So the two that I'm going to talk about today are the 4 principles of operational risk management, and then I'm going to go over the risk assessment matrix. For the 4 principles of operational risk management, you're going to ensure that the benefits outweigh the costs. You need to ensure that there is no unnecessary risk. You're going to anticipate and manage risk by planning. And you're going to ensure risk decisions occur at the correct levels. And then here is a picture of the risk assessment matrix. And it shows probability and severity, and it describes the different levels of each. And these different levels and how that fits into the bigger picture is going to inform your decision maker for how probable the bad thing that is going to happen, how likely it is to happen, and how bad it is. And that will go from red to green based on these different levels. The idea of both the 4 principles of operational risk management and the risk assessment matrix is to provide a framework for evaluating risk. If you or your leadership have something different, then use that, or work together and create your own that fits your preferences and the issue that you are working through. I am not saying that these are the only ways. I am saying that these are 2 ways. You can use these or others as long as you think through them and ensure that they evaluate risk in a way that suits your leadership and the situation at hand. In summary, today I talked about risk and risk analysis. I talked about the 2 different types of risk analysis, that being discrete and probabilistic. I talked about the 3 methods of risk analysis, those being sensitivity, scenario, and simulation. I defined risk management, which is a decision-making process that allows you to make calculated risk decisions. And one of the ways to evaluate risk that I went over is the 4 principles of operational risk management. And its parts are to ensure that the benefits outweigh the costs, ensure there are no unnecessary risks, anticipate and manage risk by planning, and ensure risk decisions occur at the correct levels. And I thank you for your attention.